So I have to tell you, 2 weeks ago now, I was sitting at my kitchen table with a pit in my stomach and tears streaming down my face because I knew that I had committed to being on this stage with all of you. And all I could think about was, what the hell am I going to say? So naturally, I turned to Netflix, and I decided to watch the special that Brene Brown did called The Call to Courage. Now, Dr. Brown is actually one of the women I look up to the most in this world. She has dedicated decades to researching and understanding shame. So, as someone who spent thousands of dollars on breast implants, just to get super sick and have to spend thousands more to get them removed, I feel like I also understand shame very, very well. So her work has greatly impacted me personally, and it has also impacted my work as a self-acceptance advocate, deeply committed to helping women reclaim their health and gain the confidence that we so deeply deserve. So I'm wrapped up in a blanket and I'm watching Brene and I'm praying for some inspiration when she says, courage is to tell the story of who you are with your whole heart. So that's what I decided to do today. I am going to tell you the story of who I am with my whole heart. And I think we're going to have some fun. We're definitely going to talk about some hard things. And my hope is that by sharing with you my journey to self-acceptance, you are going to walk away with a deeper sense of love and appreciation for your own. So here it goes. Last year, I had the incredible opportunity to deliver a TEDx talk where I shared my experience with breast implant illness. Now, if you're unfamiliar, breast implant illness is the term that is currently being used to describe the plethora of symptoms that women with breast implants can actually experience due to the heavy metal and chemical poisoning that happens to us over time. In this talk, I shared how by the time I had my implants removed, I had actually accumulated more than 40 serious side effects, including debilitating headaches, chronic fatigue, asthma, food allergies, and more. But what I didn't share was a very specific part of my healing journey that actually had nothing to do with my breasts and everything to do with what I believed my breasts meant. Like many of you, I grew up here in the US, where all you have to do is turn on the TV or flip through a magazine to be flooded with images of super skinny women with big smiles and even bigger boobs. The media here has long been a tool for conditioning, teaching women that our worth is tied directly to our appearance, that we are somehow less valuable if we don't fit into one narrow and frankly wildly unrealistic mold. This lie is then perpetuated even further by societal expectations, with both men and women alike reinforcing this idea that appearance is a measure of value and that beauty and perfection should always be prioritized over authenticity. So it's easy to see how at 19, I had come to the conclusion that breast implants were something I needed. But 10 years later, my health had declined so significantly that I was legitimately afraid I wasn't going to get to be there to raise my son, who was only 2 years old at the time. So I made the incredibly hard decision to remove my implants. And something I think that is important for you to understand about that choice is it's human nature to seek certainty, And nothing about removing my breast implants felt certain, despite an overwhelming amount of evidence. Many doctors and surgeons today are still claiming that breast implant illness isn't even real. And the number of plastic surgeons that looked me in the eye and told me I would hate my body, I would be deformed, or I would be left with absolutely no breast tissue at all, is sickening. So the search for a doctor I could trust was almost as difficult as choosing to remove my implants in the first place. So you can imagine, as I was navigating this journey, I was incredibly scared. I was scared about how this was going to impact my health. I was scared what I was going to look like. And I was so scared of how this was going to impact my family. So I started seeking answers and support. And thankfully, the breast implant illness community is actually incredible. I was able to connect with thousands of women all over the world who were going through this exact same thing. And they let me scream and cry and bond and not feel so alone. But in my search for certainty, I latched on to what I believed at the time was the worst case scenario, being completely flat. I was convinced that that was going to be my reality, so that is what I needed to accept. And I started only really connecting with women that fit that mold. So by the time I had surgery, I was ready to be flat. I was so good with it, like empowered by it even. So 2 weeks later, when the bandages came off and I saw my natural breast for the first time, I completely broke down. I had just spent months deconstructing and realigning my identity with completely flat. And I wasn't. First world problem. I know, I still had boobs. But you have to understand that our identity is central to how we see ourselves and how we show up in the world. Our identity literally shapes our self-worth and our ability to connect deeply with others. So I had just spent months pouring everything I had into these beautiful, powerful, flat-chested warriors because I thought that was going to be my tribe. And then I had surgery and could no longer see myself as part of that team. So now at my most vulnerable point, I felt like I didn't fit with any of the women in my life that had breast implants. And I also didn't fit within this community that I had become so attached to. Yet again, finding myself feeling totally lost and completely alone. Which is when I finally realized that this entire journey, the whole thing, was only ever about one thing: not being alone. At my core, I had been seeking desperately to belong somewhere, and I wanted to belong so badly that I had stopped asking myself, what is true for me? And I started allowing my identity to be shaped by external voices. Other people got to tell me what I should look like, who I should be, and what parts of myself I shouldn't love. When you give that kind of power to other people, you sacrifice the ability to ever trust yourself. And if you can't trust yourself, you lose the ability to make decisions that honor who you truly are. True belonging will never come from twisting ourselves to fit someone else's expectations. It can only ever come from standing in our truth and be willing to accept who we are right now and finding connection from that place of authenticity. And I get it. That feels scary as hell. Putting your truest, most vulnerable version of yourself out there, it feels terrifying. But that is what authenticity really means. It means having the courage to be imperfect and being willing to accept yourself anyway. That's the real secret. Because before you can ever find true belonging with other people, you are first going to have to master belonging to yourself.